Welcome to the Purdue Basketball Beat. Excited to be here. Are Michael, Andy, and Anish. What's up, guys?
How you doing? Team on
What's
three.
up?
1, 2, 3. Team.
Team.
Terrible. Awful. We started awfully. This is
We've
bad.
lost to everybody, so
Morale is low.
which is good because for those of you who are listening, we have not prepared any type of script. So
To be fair, this is the second straight episode where we've said, "Hey, we swear we do planning," but this time we didn't do any planning.
I think anyone who's listened to more than one episode, anyone who's listened to anything other than the Foreman or the Brian GBI episode, probably have figured out that we don't do a ton of planning.
We're super good at this job.
so
We do.
so answer this question. So, and I don't mean to start actually talking about basketball.
Oh,
Do you
this is
feel
way too early to
generally-
start talking about basketball.
Generally, do you feel good about Purdue basketball right now where we are, or
I do
not?
a lot, actually.
Do you really?
Yeah, why not? 19-4, that's pretty good.
I feel neutral at best.
Neutral at 19-4.
But we
That's
still
good.
don't know. We don't know. We've not played anyone of substance, and I know that's debatable.
We've lost to the teams of substance that we played.
We beat the teams we should beat.
Let's keep on the sunny side here. I mean,
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Stick to the script.
No criticize. Listen, we are funded by Purdue University. Oh, excuse me.
All right, Anish, what do you think?
I feel good. I understand where some of that comes from, and that just comes because we've lost 3 games in the Big Ten, but 2 of them are to one of the 5 best teams in the country, and so I'm okay with that. I mean, that team has the Big Ten Player of the Year on it. That has the team that's probably going to finish number 1 or number 2 in the Big Ten. They're probably going to finish easily top 10 in the country. I'm okay, and to be fair, they lost to a D2 school. Iowa did earlier in the season, but now they're on a tear, and that's why you lose to the hot team. What are you going to do if you're not the hot team? What are you going to do?
And I think the thing that makes me the most nervous is just how efficiently Iowa, and Butler to the same degree, how efficiently they neutralized our height advantage, and I feel like the blueprint is kind of out there, and that. And it's a huge weakness, and I think
not every team has Roosevelt Jones or Jared Uthoff though.
Yeah.
And I agree, but it makes me nervous because they're both, I think Butler and Iowa are two very different teams, but they both kind of found a way to take them completely out of the game, and just the fact that that's how those games went, I feel like.
I don't know. So they're 2 different teams, I guess, but they're both very gritty defensive teams. So they both rely on their defense, and they both rely on outside shooting. They also have weirdly the size to handle Purdue, or to give Purdue weird fits. Iowa did a great job of dragging AJ out of the paint on defense, and that's kind of how they got a lot of their points. It was that same high screen and roll that just killed Purdue every single time. And a lot of that is preventable, but a lot of that is also just Iowa's a really bad matchup for Purdue.
So answer me this: if you were in Matt Painter's shoes and you had to play Iowa a third time, would you change the lineup?
Probably. I think. And unfortunately, I think this is the solution for the Iowa type of matchups. You send Biggie to the bench. You play him against bench units, but you play him and Haas against bench units, but against the number 1 unit in crunch time, unless you need a rebound, you play a point guard, Ray Davis, Vince Edwards, a shooter, and AJ.
See, I think the issue with Iowa is that of all the teams that Purdue has played so far, they are the most well-balanced in that they don't have one guy or one technique that they're going to use to beat you. They've got a bunch of guys who can do a lot of different things. And I don't know. They can run, but they also run pretty well in the half court. And I don't think changing the lineups is really going to do anything about
Well,
that.
so to be fair, and even though this obviously didn't work, in the first game, in the first Iowa game, Purdue just played them straight. They were
Mhm.
just like, we'll put Vince Edwards and Ray Davis on Jared Utoff. We'll switch on everything. We're not going to play any different lineups, and Purdue got smoked in the second half after the cold shooting kind of wore off. In the second game, Purdue put Biggie on Utah and just said, score everything you want to. We're going to stop everybody else. And that was a disaster. So there have been two different approaches, but Purdue got smoked that second time. So I do think Painter has made some adjustments, but they haven't been good ones. They've just been adjustments, and Iowa's kind of outsmarted everything.
The Biggie on Utah thing was just awful. That was so bad and
It didn't
so
work.
predictable too. Like Biggie's got a lot of pluses going for him, but lateral quickness, like guarding guys out on the perimeter, guarding guys who can both shoot and drive is absolutely, like, we'll call it an area for potential growth.
And I know that there's a lot more than just statistics at play, kind of in terms of playing him. In terms of keeping him happy and showing, new recruits that he's not afraid to start a freshman. But I still think that I find myself wondering if 10 rebounds a game or whatever, if that's really worth everything else that comes along with it. A huge defensive mentality, and 5 turnovers a game, and it's really starting to take a toll. And I don't know. I think it's a reasonable discussion just to whether we should allocate so many minutes, because isn't he still playing the most minutes on the team right now?
Yeah, but he was also really good against Nebraska. I mean, like he had a really
Oh,
good game,
absolutely. I'm not
great
saying he
passing
doesn't
game.
have. Yeah, and that.
It's the thing. It's against teams like Iowa, they're going to exploit that matchup. And Biggie doesn't necessarily have the experience to draw from to combat it on the offensive side, and that's a big part. I mean, like that's a huge thing that's kind of missing from his game. That's why reports are that he's coming back. I mean, like he's already planning on coming back, barring some crazy miracle run where he becomes a guaranteed lottery pick.
Right.
It sounds like he's coming back, and the biggest
Well,
thing.
let's be honest. I mean, I don't think the NBA was necessarily calling his name. After Big Ten season started. I, I mean, is his name even in the top first 2 rounds? I don't mean to,
I
rain
don't
on the parade, but
I don't think
He was,
I think that all the draft boards are assuming that he's going back, which is why he's not on there. But if you look at the 2017 rankings, which is when they assume he'll go, that he's pretty high on those. Um, Same thing with Haas. Haas started the year really high on the 2016 draft boards, and now he's been pushed off completely, not because teams wouldn't draft him, but because those draft boards assume that he's not going.
well, so a couple things. Ray Davis actually passed Swanigan in terms of minutes played per game. So he has his minutes have been shuffled around a little bit. Even in the 2017 drafts, though, at least on Draft Express, he's not a first round pick yet. So I think there's still a lot of development that he needs to do to get there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think he struggles against a very specific type of team, and you've seen that with both Iowa games. But he
I mean,
otherwise,
and to be fair, AJ struggled pretty mightily against Iowa both times.
and it's because that team just really works against, really can capitalize on Purdue's weaknesses in a way that other teams can't. But
And that's
like
why I'm not too worried. That's why I'm not too worried.
but he's putting up like 10 and 10 against OSU. He destroyed Rutgers, although so did everyone else on Purdue.
Well, and what's funny to me is that nobody really said much about that Ohio State win. Ohio State's still a really talented team. They're an underachieving team, but they're a very well coached. They're generally very well coached, and they're really talented. They're probably one of the 25 most talented teams in the country, pretty easily. If you look at you look at the recruits that they have, and you look at the stars that they had coming in, Thad Matta's a great coach, and Purdue just handled them. It was closer at times, but it was never really threatened. I thought that was an impressive win. I thought that was a really impressive win. Purdue showed composure down the stretch,
Yep.
and it was great. The other thing was the Nebraska win. AJ was dominant, and it they didn't quite put away Nebraska. Like the lead never got more than something like 15. It
Mhm.
was usually between 8 and 15 points, and um, they made a few quick runs, and Purdue was just really steady. Just got the ball into AJ because they knew he was dominant. Didn't have too many turnovers. Like those are good wins. I know we haven't played some of the meat of the schedule, which is going to come in February, but I still feel fine. I mean, they're again. My preseason expectation wasn't that this team is the sixth best or fifth best in the country. It's like 12. It's one of the 12,
10
13
to
best
20.
teams. Yeah,
10 to
and
20, I think is fair. And in
and
the last 4 games, Swanigan is averaging less than 2 turnovers a game. He's taking fewer field goals. His usage has, I think, stabilized a little bit. So I think keeping him in at the 4 and playing him 25 minutes a game is going to end up working out really well for Purdue. Now, one guy that definitely could use more, I think, is AJ, who just picked up his third Big Ten Player of the Week award this week after absolutely dominating Nebraska.
that was so fun. That was, I mean, like that's the AJ that everybody who fairly sometimes complain about AJ. That's the game they were waiting for, right? Like that's the kind of performance that they were waiting for.
And he's got a couple of those every season, but his thing has always been consistency, and he's been more consistent since about halfway through Big Ten season last year.
Did you read the quote about him saying like, "I just wanted to start dunking it, and then I just tried to dunk everything, and then it worked." Like, oh, he just decided that.
Yeah, I do that too when I play. Like, I just decide that I want to start dunking everything, and then I'm just like all
Well,
over folks.
the better quote was toward the end of the player press conference when I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Nathan Baird or whatever asked AJ. They were just like you're not one to really demand the ball, and continued his question of how he whatever got engaged, but like halfway through the question, AJ interrupted him, and he was like, "Well, if you see me wide open, you should pass me the ball," and that's pretty much the end of the story. And Ray started laughing, and he was like, "Don't let his demeanor fool you. Every practice, he's demanding the ball, and every time down the court, he's demanding the ball."
Yeah.
So it's like I think last year changed. I think last Big Ten season and the success that he saw kind of changed him, and this. I don't know. If he hits the same stride that he did last year, except this much better this year, it could be a fun one.
He, I think Haas has been really good in spelling him, but I still get a little bit frustrated when Painter insists on subbing him out 5 minutes into each half. I mean, every game, it's this. As soon as we hit that 15-minute mark, Haas goes to the scorer's table.
The first half of the Nebraska game was really frustrating when he took him out. When Painter took AJ out,
He
at
scored
that
3 straight buckets and was taken out of the. What are you doing?
as getting his rest, and then Haas sucked. And AJ came back in and was continued to be dominant. Now, to be fair, in the second half, he did play a lot more. He didn't, he took him through that extended break, and he basically played AJ until he was just dead into the ground. Gave him about a 4-minute rest, and then he came back and he was, he put the game away. And so there's a little bit of an adjustment, but that is something, right? Like these rotations, like sometimes are just so rigid.
Yeah, and that's I kind of see that a lot too, and because it's not just AJ. I mean, there's a lot of times when a player will get hot, and I mean, the conventional wisdom is you let the hot hand, keep them in, and
Kendall Stevens versus Iowa, right?
yeah, it drives me crazy seeing him go out, and I just convinced myself that he just wanted he wanted to give the crowd to give him some love, and
I don't know. He's just really. I think he's just really married to that minutes allocation, and I think he also might feel that it's unfair to Isaac, like because Isaac, he had another quote post game that Isaac is one of the better centers in college basketball, but AJ might be the best. Now that's not quite true. AJ is probably about second best or third best in the country, but that still sucks for Isaac to be sitting behind that guy. But still, you play the best man, right?
I mean, it sucks, but at the same time,
Got to do what you got to do.
he's he's doing the best that he can in the time that he gets. He's hitting his free throws. He's playing better defense, although he still swats at the ball like when defending the post. It's fine, but he'll have his opportunity next year to start. So I don't think he's being robbed of an opportunity.
No.
Well, I am nervous next year though when fouls actually matter because he really I know and he likes to claim like he has nowhere to move or he can't move. Nah, he's pretty rough with the elbows.
He pulls those elbows up
he's a-
above his shoulder, and it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna clock. You give someone a concussion, like they're gonna call that. But I think the thing is, like next year, he gets into foul trouble, and maybe Taylor gets some more minutes. But Swanigan, I think, naturally moves to the 5, and maybe that's not such a terrible thing.
I think Purdue's window is 2 years. I think it's pretty clearly 2 years, not 1 year. I think Purdue's window ends next April, hopefully. That's the title window, and I'm pretty confident in that. I think next year's team. You know what's funny is that I actually think next year's team is going to be more successful, even though this year's team is way more talented.
Mm.
I think I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead. I wanna. Or
Well,
how?
so the pieces we lose are AJ and Ray, right?
Mhm.
The guys backing them up are worse, not that much worse. I mean, like if you look at
Defensively is a problem with Ray.
bring in Basil Smotherman.
Oh, come on. You can't compare Smotherman to Ray.
Absolutely, I can. He's not as good. No, he's not. He's definitely a clear step down. Isaac Haas, definitely not as good as AJ Hammond. Not that huge of a step down. I mean, like, the guys that Purdue has next year to fill the shoes of two, for any other team, irreplaceable talents is such a luxury to be in. And then you start to factor in, we add in Carson Edwards, who's a real point guard who can shoot, probably the first scoring true point guard Painter's ever had with any talent. With any distribution talent.
I got to disagree with you. I disagree.
Well, and then you add natural progression of Caleb Swanigan, a 5-star recruit. You have the natural progression of Vince Edwards, who is currently taking the
5
lead.
stars in your heart. I understand.
Well, Vince is currently taking the lead. Like, I think next year's team, though not as talented, could be more successful, and actually might be better suited to win basketball games in like this era.
I think so. Here's the points of disagreement that I have with you. There are 2 things that AJ Hammonds does that much better than Haas has shown a capability to do. One is block shots. He had incredible timing.
He erases bad defense.
He erases bad defense. He's got incredibly soft touch. You never see him foul a guy driving at him. He never does because he just knows how to move. The second thing he does, which is super underrated, is he can hit a jump shot. Like he only does it 2 or 3 times a game, but it's enough. And Haas, that's nowhere near a part of Haas.
But when Biggie slides to the 5, I mean, like we get Haas gets in foul trouble.
You're saying Biggie shoots that shot.
I'm saying Biggie shoots that shot. Yeah, maybe not from the 3, but like he's shown enough that I'm pretty confident that he's going to do it. See, that's the thing. When Haas gets into foul trouble, the play isn't Taylor. The play is slide Vince to the 4, slide Caleb to the 5, and put shooters.
Yeah.
Load up with shooters. That suits 2016, 2017 basketball better than what Purdue's trying to do right now.
And I think and then you touched on Vince, but he's, we've seen flashes of what happens when he's engaged, and he's going to have to be engaged. So that changes the entire dynamic of the offense. When he's driving,
He's so good, yeah.
I mean, his last 5 games have been pretty spectacular.
His one-handed floater, like I know that we all got sick of floaters after the Johnson brothers.
But it's different. I mean, like this
one.
one's different.
It goes in every time. Probably because he's taking a floater from 5 feet instead of 12.
So against Nebraska, he didn't have a great game. Like he had a pretty bad game. But again, you know, AJ had it going against Nebraska. But then, the Minnesota, Iowa, Ohio State, Rutgers, Penn State, that stretch was probably the best of his career.
His game
Um,
against Minnesota was probably the best game he's
oh,
ever had.
unbelievable. So much fun. And
24-8 with 5 turnovers.
and
But
that followed the Iowa game where he shot 57%, I mean,
yeah,
he's playing really, really well, and
I think
especially
he
when Purdue needs him.
I think he can take a leap next year. The biggest concern is still the perimeter defender because Ray can shut a guy down. Like he's done it. Every guy that it hasn't been quite as publicized as it was last year, but he's been playing just as good. His offense is off, but his defense is just as good as it was last year. But you're talking about Smotherman, and you won't find a bigger Smotherman fan than me, but he hasn't shown anything that would indicate that he's anything close to 3 levels away from where Davis is right now.
I think he can be just as good of a defender. I think he can
Maybe he can, but you're making an assumption that he'll get there.
I don't.
See,
Yeah,
he has length. His length, I think, can offset a little bit of
he's never gotten playing
some of
time.
his speed.
Well, I mean, isn't that kind of the point? Like Ray's had playing time since his freshman year. He's built himself into this defender. Again, huge Smotherman fan, but I think it's a big leap to say that he's going to be able to step into those shoes.
I think it's not going to be as big of a drop off as it could be, and I think everybody else will progress. Kendall Stevens hopefully will have 1 year that's not, marred by trauma or injury. Dakota Mathias will get a year better and a year smarter. PJ Thompson. I mean, like PJ Thompson's improvement has been fantastic.
He's having a great year, and all people do is complain about him, but he is having a really solid year as
I think he's having a phenomenal year. Carson Edwards is a really, really good recruit. It probably should be a consensus 4-star recruit. Instead, he's about like a 3.5, right? I mean, like he's at borderline 3-star.
He's got a position issue. I think
it's gonna be
because he's allowed to do whatever he like, both AU and for his team. He can shoot the ball as much as he wants, and he does, which is not bad because he's a talented guy. But I think there's going to be a bit of an adjustment going from constant green light to why don't you act like more of a facilitator than a shooter? Because I mean, I don't really think he's a pure point guard.
Well, and if PJ Thompson's emergence gives him the opportunity to slide to the 2, and granted he's not perfect size for it, but he, at least from a height and length perspective, but he's got the skill set, and it would be interesting because we haven't had a shooter like him.
And unlike other shoot first point guards in recent memory, he won't be forced to take on a big role next year. And Purdue's had some success this year playing both Johnny Hill and PJ Thompson at the same time. I mean, that lineup's worked in stretches, so maybe it'll work next year too.
I think next year is one of those years where Purdue's talent level gets lower and the wins either get better or don't change. Just because I don't see another. I mean, like Big Ten isn't bringing in a stud recruiting class, though.
Whoa, Michigan State.
Michigan State always brings in what Michigan State does, but they're starting to. I mean, like they're regressing to the mean, and they're going to lose Valentine. I mean, that's huge. They're going to lose. Are they losing Harris? No, he's there for another year, right?
Yeah.
He's got 2 years. He's going to be good. I mean, State's going to be good. Penn State is going to be very much improved. They're bringing in a baby boilers type class, like one of those that could be game changing. Like they could be moving into that. Like they could take Wisconsin's place, in the top half of the Big Ten. But I don't know. Like I still don't think it's going to be. There's going to be a dominant team. Right, like most of the draft talent next year is going to be international. There are going to be a few more studs than this year in college basketball. But I think it's still open. I really do, and I think it will be very interesting. Now, I say that it will never be as fun as it is right now watching AJ Hammonds after 4 years like turn into the
Turning
player that
in.
he is right now. I mean, like it's so fun to watch AJ like
He,
in the zone like
I
he is.
I think that next year though will be such a different offense. It might be more
Yeah.
fun to watch because, and this is somebody actually I saw a post on this earlier, but I thought they hit the nail on the head. Is there isn't a lot of guessing, and a lot of times this season, you know where the ball's going to go,
Mhm.
and the movement isn't great. And I think that without AJ Hammond's down there, assuming that Haas doesn't, it's not a one for one in terms of possessions. I think it's more exciting when you have more people that can score. I think there's more creativity, more movement, and I think probably fewer turnovers too.
I'd like to see. I'm excited to see the Biggie at the 5, Vince at the 4 lineup. That is going to be like the change of the change of pace. I think it's really close to what I mean. Like you know, say what you will, everybody's trying to be the Warriors, right? That's a very Warriors-y lineup, right? You start with a really conventional lineup where Haas is your Bogut, and you transition to the guy that Big E should be patterning himself after, which is Draymond Green. And he slides to the 5, and you have 4 players that can, switch on absolutely everything. Now the thing is, you don't have a shooter like Steph, and that's a problem. But eventually these damn shooters have to make something, right? I mean, like it's getting to that point.
You'd think one of them would break out a little bit. I agree, though. Next year is going to be very interesting. I think Michigan State is going to dominate like crazy. They've got 2 5-star recruits coming in at positions of need. I think they're going to
You
put
know,
together
you
a
were
national.
beating that exact same drum when you're talking about Diamond Stone and how Maryland's gonna run the
Oh, about the
tables.
number 4 team in the nation? Yeah,
No,
I'll
I'm
beat
not.
that drum.
Yeah, but they're not the dominant, like dominant.
Are you
There's a
scared of
lot of
Maryland? Are
separation.
either of you scared of
I,
Maryland like you're scared of
Yes.
Iowa?
I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I
I
would
think
rather
they could
play
beat us.
Maryland than Iowa. That's
I
for
would
sure.
I would rather play Maryland 100 times than Iowa. Iowa's a
I
terrible matchup. Maryland tries to do what we do.
Maryland, yeah, Maryland is more akin to Purdue than Iowa is. Iowa is a much worse matchup than Maryland, but I think Maryland's a better team, if that makes sense.
Now, saying that, the next game is, unless I'm mistaken, traveling to Maryland, right?
Yes.
So that's a hard game.
That's
I
a
mean,
hard game, followed up by Michigan State, then Michigan, then Northwestern, then Indiana, then Maryland, then Nebraska.
hey,
It's conceivable
maybe
that
Seth
things could get
Davis,
really bad.
things could go pretty well, and Seth Davis can't say shit like Purdue hasn't played anyone and not rank us in the top 25.
You
But I
know,
don't care. Who cares
I
about
stopped
rankings in
following him
February?
2 years ago on Twitter, and my life is better. I've lost
Who
40 pounds. I feel more
I,
alive.
I don't care about rankings in February, but I care when people with national uh, exposure say dumb stuff like that because it's an easy hot take to have.
He's a hot take machine. He is the stupidest national college basketball correspondent. He's the swarmiest, the dumbest. He's the worst.
He's not
He's
great,
he's just the worst.
but
He,
anyway.
I hope he prays to whatever God he believes in and thanks that God that he has a job.
He's got a better job than any of us have at this point.
Hey, you don't know what I do for a living.
Hope. Hey, maybe you're a multimillionaire. I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe
I
you won the lottery.
can't you tell by the clothes I wear?
Yes, absolutely. And those Scorpion King tattoos.
My Scorpion King tattoo.
Yes, that's right. Uh, so this is a tough stretch. So rattle off those games again, if you could.
Uh, at Maryland, home against Michigan State, at Michigan, home against Northwestern, at IU, home against Maryland, and at Nebraska.
So I think those are 4 wins. I think those should be 4 clear wins, and the rest are borderline. So I think we should beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Uh, I think we should beat IU.
Mm.
Why? Why?
So IU is going to be the same as it was last year in that The strengths of the two teams are going to be diametrically opposed.
And so AJ is going to score 40,
We could. We could.
45.
Or they shoot a billion threes and hit all of them and run us out of the gym. Who knows? I think if I had to bet, I'd say Purdue wins that game by 10. But who knows?
I think Purdue matches up pretty well against IU. I think Thomas Bryant against AJ Hammonds is going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. But we have time to. We're going to have a podcast before that game happens. So the other ones, Michigan, 2 games against Michigan State. Is that what you said?
No, just one. It's
one game.
So the 4 wins I think you're talking
Northwestern.
about are Michigan, Northwestern, IU, and Nebraska.
Northwestern is the one that I forgot. Yeah.
Northwestern, typically gives Purdue problems.
If we
here's what I'm on the
lose, then
lookout
that's
for.
an issue.
Here's what I'm on the lookout for: is that stupid loss.
I think we already had that stupid loss.
We've had a couple. The Illinois game certainly counts, but we might have one more in us. So I'm on the lookout. One of those 4, I think, each of those 4 in their own way, except for Nebraska, has stupid loss potential.
Man, what are you? God, Michigan State is not that good. Why am I so terrified of them?
What do you mean they're ranked 10th? They've got a ton of guys.
I know, but they've lost more stupid games than Purdue has at this point. And losing Denzel Valentine is rough, but it's not that rough. I mean, they've been blown out of the gym more times than Purdue has.
They had a rough stretch where they lost 3 in a row. One of which was to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Which, come on.
And then they got blown out by 30 against Iowa with Denzel Valentine. That was with getting Valentine back.
17, but okay.
They were fully healthy, and they got absolutely blown out by Iowa. But I am terrified. I'm terrified of Izzo. I'm terrified of the Breslin Center. I'm terrified of that entire team.
It's at home. It's a home game.
It'll be fun. That'll be a fun Mackey game. I think we beat Maryland.
Both times or just once?
I think we sweep Maryland. I think we sweep Maryland.
Okay. Man, I think what I love is just like this positivity. You know what I mean? It's like this like nothing is going to happen but the best possible outcome.
Since when are you guys the positive ones and I'm the negative one?
I don't know. I feel like I've been overly negative this episode.
Yeah.
But I can't. I don't know. I can't jump on the
So
positivity.
you see those 6 games. That's like the stretch of the season, right? That makes or breaks the season. How many wins do you see?
At least 3.
I think I see 5.
No more than 5.
Yeah, we drop 1. We're not going to sweep that. That's a tough stretch.
You're not going to sweep Maryland. That's ridiculous.
I don't think so.
That's an absurd statement.
Why? Maryland plays Purdue ball. Maryland plays Purdue ball, but their coach hasn't done Purdue ball for as long as Purdue has. Their center isn't as good as Purdue's center is.
Their centers are more versatile than Purdue's centers. A little bit better ball handling, a little bit better
We have more of them.
You do. But you can only play really one of them at a time.
I argue we kind of play 2 at a time.
Who guards Melo Trimble?
Hill, probably. Hill gets a lot of those minutes.
So then, what's that going to look like, Melo Trimble on Hill when Hill has the ball?
I think Trimble's really good. I don't think Johnny Hill. I think sacrificing Johnny Hill to the Melo Trimble gods is an okay sacrifice to make.
What about Rashid Suleiman shooting damn near 50% from 3?
I like the matchup with Vince Edwards. Suleiman and Vince Edwards. I don't mind that. What I am terrified of is Jake Layman versus Caleb Swanigan.
Yeah.
I think that has the potential to turn ugly, almost as ugly as AJ Hammonds against Diamond Stone or the other guy.
Or the other guy.
What's his name? Whatever his name is, it doesn't matter.
You're not a big Diamond Stone fan.
I love Diamond Stone. I think he's a freshman going up against a senior and like the second best center in the country.
So Diamond Stone has never played more than 30 minutes a game. His minutes per game is actually not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as you would expect. Because they're deep,
Yeah,
right?
Maryland's deep.
They
Maryland
can
is
throw
very
a
deep.
bunch of players at you. And really, they lost to Michigan State, which is one of the reasons
What are you gonna do? Yeah, what are you
why you're scared of Michigan State. But they beat Iowa and looked pretty good doing it. They struggled. They lost to Michigan, and they struggled to put Northwestern away. So yeah, they're not a perfect team.
I think they tried to do what we do. I really do.
Then why did they beat Iowa?
They have
Purdue
Melo
should have
Trimble.
beat Iowa.
Purdue should have beat Iowa, one of them.
No,
Also, they have Melo.
Iowa. Purdue was beating Iowa in the first game because they were shooting ridiculous from the three-point line. But when the game came down to it, Iowa did not have a problem putting Purdue away in either game. I don't think Purdue should have beat Iowa.
The second game,
the right team won. Even the first game,
I think
Purdue
the game that Mackey Purdue probably should have taken.
Purdue played as well as you could expect to play
in the first half.
In the first half, and was up by what, 5 at halftime?
No.
Oh wait, no. They were up by a lot more than that.
They were up by like 15 or like 18.
They were up by 18 at one point.
Yeah, and it was just a collapse.
No, you're right.
I
got my games mixed up.
As good as they played in the first, they should have had that Mackey game. And that's an issue. I mean, like, composure is an issue. Like I said, the Ohio State game was good to a good counter to that. The first time that they'd shown real composure against a talented team. I think Maryland. I mean, the trump card Maryland has is they have Melo Trimble, and in college basketball, having a dominant point guard is a thing. I mean, like, so that's the big one. I'm not scared of Maryland. I don't think.
So where does this team finish, in your opinion?
In the Big Ten?
Big Ten.
Where are they sitting now? What's IU's freaking schedule down the road?
It's easier than Purdue's, I'll tell you that.
But they're gonna. So they could easily have a stumble if history.
No, so their schedule is going to catch up with them. They play Iowa twice. They play Maryland. They play Michigan State. They play Purdue. Down the stretch. They also have games against Michigan, which they should win. Penn State, they should win. Nebraska, they should win. Illinois, they should win.
Their easy games are easier than Purdue's easy games. But their hard games are just as hard.
Their hard games are just as hard. I'd say playing Purdue is a harder game than playing Indiana. You know what I mean? But they can't play them. You know what I mean? But they have 5 ranked opponents. They have 5 ranked opponents coming up. Purdue has 4. So I think IU kind of regresses back to the mean. I think Purdue finishes just about even. Who else is above Purdue right now? What are the standings? So Indiana's in first. Iowa probably wins the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
Which is fun, actually. Like, just in college basketball terms, Iowa winning the Big Ten out of nowhere, and Jared Uthoff, the dude that Bo Ryan tried to restrict in his transfer, is going to win the Big Ten.
So, and looking at the rest of Maryland's schedule. So they play Nebraska, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, and IU.
Oh man, Maryland's taking the conference.
That is cupcakes.
That's Maryland's only half game behind Iowa. They might take it.
And Bowie State there in the middle. I'm not sure how that got put.
Excuse me?
Are you screwing with me?
No, on February 9th. But that's like the big Bowie State Maryland rivalry game.
Oh right. Well, you can't get rid of that game.
That's protected.
Don't they have like a trophy that they play for? I love how Bowie State doesn't even have a picture in the ESPN schedule.
The only other team that I think has a shot, I think Michigan loses. Like Michigan, Ohio State, all those guys lose. I think the top of the Big Ten is a battle between Indiana, Iowa, Michigan State, Purdue, and Maryland. So if we look at Michigan State's schedule, play Michigan, Purdue, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio State twice, Penn State, and Rutgers. So Purdue could finish 4th.
Fourth is fine.
Which is yeah.
I mean, Purdue could finish fourth in the Big Ten and still be like the 13th best team in the country.
Ooh. I bet Purdue is no better than 20th ranked by the end of the season.
I don't know. I don't know.
So if we beat Michigan, Northwestern,
Indiana,
Indiana, and what was the last one? Rutgers,
Nebraska.
or Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Then what do you? So if we just those are just the only games we win. What are we ranked?
below.
I don't think we're ranked.
No?
Yeah. I mean, that would mean we lose against Maryland twice and Michigan State. Those are the hardest games on the schedule. And then,
And
so we got swept by Maryland, we got swept by uh, Iowa, and we got basically swept by Michigan State.
And
That's
if we're
tough.
predicting IU to regress, that's a top 25 team that might not be top 25.
Yeah. So that's, I think if
If we
those are
only
the
win
only
four, then I mean, we're top 30,
Yeah,
probably.
sure,
Just
but
on the outside.
that's really
But-
disappointing. That'd be a really disappointing finish.
And
You know what? That
all
also
this.
puts us
Oh, go ahead.
in the 8-9 seed range. for
Worst.
the
That's the
tournament.
worst place to be.
Yep.
I'd rather lose more. Like, lose more or less. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do not lose 4 games.
If they
Or
take
win only 4 games.
if they take one of the Maryland games, then
That's enough to bump to,
that's
you
enough
know.
to be fine.
I'm gonna go with that as my prediction, though. I think we win 4.
Me too.
Oof. Really?
And not necessarily those particular games. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that we'll split the first Michigan State and Maryland matchups, and then after that, one stupid loss, and then we win the rest that we're supposed to.
One unexpected win and one stupid loss.
Yeah.
It's the Boilermaker way.
I think Michigan State wins in Mackey. I think we sweep Maryland. I think we blow the doors off of Indiana, and I think that last Nebraska game is a lot closer than it should be.
You might be right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, like, that's exactly how
Except for the
2011
sweeping
finished.
Maryland thing, you must be high. If you think we're gonna sweep Maryland.
I
That's-
don't. They're not. They're the 4th best team in the country, but UNC is number 2, and they
Mm.
just lost to Louisville. I mean, like, this year is screwy.
It is. Well,
So-
see, so all I'm gonna say is for an episode that we didn't plan very well,
That's true.
C minus, B or B minus, C plus. I mean, that's not bad.
I'd give it the same grade as I give Purdue right now.
I mean,
solid-
that's better grades than I got in
solid,
college.
solid like 86.
Solid 86. Like nothing to write home about. Your parents aren't proud,
But they're not ashamed.
but they're not ashamed.
They're not ashamed.
It's not
I don't know what
costing them
that's
extra
like.
money.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But
thank you for listening to the Purdue Basketball Beat.
enjoy AJ,
Enjoy AJ.
please.